everybody, to Illuminate, Navigate, Radiate, a journey of emotional resilience. I'm your host, Brandon, and we're here with another journey segment today. Today we have Nicole Mack from Colorado joining us. So how are you doing today, Nicole?
I am doing great. The weather is so nice today, and I'm just happy to be here, honestly.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for your time and thank you for, being open to sharing your story and sharing your experiences. So just to kind of start off that conversation, like what interests you in sharing your experiences and sharing your story? Do you see the benefit in it? Do you just enjoy doing it? Like what drives you to do that a little bit?
Probably just because when I first was trying to figure out what was going on and why I was having such a rough time expressing my feelings about my depression and everything, I felt so alone. And I felt like what really helped me was talking through it with people and hearing other people's stories and knowing that I wasn't alone in the battle of depression and everything. So I just feel like as hard as it can be sometimes to tell your story, that it's super helpful. And even if it helps one person, that is such a positive thing. And it can even save someone's life. So yeah, that's why I love to just talk about my story, even if it's not such a crazy one. But yeah, I just also love helping people, and it's just also fun to talk to like-minded people like you as well. So yeah, that's why I do it, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect answer, especially just with the, saying that you felt like you're alone, right? And that's why I
Mhm.
see so much value and so much power in when we are open to sharing our experiences, and then on the opposite side of that, when we're open to listening to somebody's
Right,
experience, then we can, or we know we're not alone anymore.
right,
Even when the story can be dramatically different, or we can be two different people from two different places that experienced a different type of depression or a different type of trauma or a different story. There's probably
right.
still those different emotions and feelings that we can relate on a little bit. So I'm excited to hear some of that, and I'm sure me and you can relate on a few of those different things. And before we go into kind of where it started off for you and what that looked like, where are you at today, and what do you do today, and then we'll kind of talk about what helped get you there.
Yeah. So I'm basically just a content creator. So I make a lot of videos and photos for brands, hotels, and I travel around the world doing that. I do a lot of other rando stuff on the side. Like I built out a van with my boyfriend. Right now we're actually building a house together. So just a lot of other things that I'm passionate about that I do on the side. And I also do a lot of marketing and social media stuff for people as well. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place, but I love it. So yeah, it works for me.
To kind of like hit on that a little bit, because I mean, to me that sounds like a really like freeing thing, but also
Mhm.
that you're living what you want to be living, to do that stuff, right? To be traveling, to be building a house, to be just having all these experiences. It's like that sounds like you're living the life you want to be living, no matter how people may look at it, or
Yeah.
what people may feel about it.
Yeah. Honestly, I had no idea that I would honestly be doing this. Like I graduated from college with a communications degree, but I thought I'd be doing more in office maybe stuff. But growing up with parents that were entrepreneurs, I kind of quickly realized that I didn't really want to do the 9 to 5 thing. So yeah, I kind of just slowly tried a bunch of different stuff. I had always loved photography, so I was like, why don't I just start there, I guess? So I did that, and it slowly just kind of snowballed into opportunity after other opportunity, meeting people throughout my journey. Um, and yeah, now I'm here and I'm doing content creation work for brands, which is super fun. And then I get to, just because I make my own schedule, I can try other things like learning how to build a house or learning how to build out a van and doing van life. So yeah, I'm definitely super blessed, and I'm really happy with how hard I worked to get here, I guess. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome, and that's, I think that's where we all want to be able to get a life that we are truly happy in, and one that we can enjoy, because we do only have a short time here, right? And
yeah,
so we want to be able to make the most of it. Um,
yeah,
so I think that that's really awesome that you've been able to go through some stuff and get yourself to a spot you want to be in. Um,
yeah.
and so, yeah, so I'm gonna put your links in the description too. So anybody listening right now, make sure you go and check out Nicole, and see what she's doing, and maybe check out the brands, hotels, if you need somewhere to figure out where to stay or how to travel. I'm sure she's got
Right.
some tips for you. So,
Yeah, if you
um,
need any fall recommendations, especially Airbnbs, I'm your girl. I love fall, so you can go on my page and find all those Airbnbs because I do it every year. So yeah.
awesome. Well, so I just kind of jumping in, you had talked about going through depression and experiencing that a little bit. Was that something that you experienced early on, or was that something that kind of developed a little bit later in your life?
Yeah, so as I said, my parents were entrepreneurs themselves. And they owned a campground. So for me, in the beginning of like my life, me and my family would go between Colorado and Arizona, because the campground was a seasonal business. So I would start school at like the end of summer, and then I would be taken out and then finish school in Arizona. So I always felt like I was disconnected and I like from my peers, and I thought that was why, but it wasn't until like we moved back and my parents decided to fully stay in Colorado once they had my two younger brothers because they're like, we can't travel this much with three kids. That I started to realize it wasn't because of the moving, and yeah, as like middle school and high school went on, I still like felt disconnected, but I was just like, oh, whatever, because I ended up finding my love of volleyball, and that became like my outlet. So yeah, once high school came around, though, my family and I went through a pretty tough time with a fire and a flood, and I just started to realize that that feeling of disconnection started to turn into more feelings of like sadness and really not relating with anyone and feeling really down and like I really couldn't do um, the things that I liked to do that I was passionate about. Even like volleyball for a while was like a chore almost. And that was like the thing I was the most passionate about. And to me, I was like, wow, this is so weird. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, why am I not happy? Like, no matter how hard, like, I worked at it, I was like, what is going on? So it was just really confusing for me as like a high school kid. Um, and like my parents and some of my parents' friends suggested for me to go to therapy. And I like went to therapy, but like I wasn't like forced, but like I just wasn't involved in it because I was like, this isn't like a thing. And the therapist like suggested that I had situational depression at the time just because I was going through so much. And so she thought it was just all the stuff that I was going through with the fire and the flood and that craziness of like all of the stuff that I went through. And so I was like, oh, well, if it's just situational, like this isn't a real thing. And so I just kept like using volleyball as like my outlet. And it wasn't honestly until college when I got a crazy concussion that took me out of my sport that it really like put me in a situation where I was alone and I kind of just had to deal with my shit on my own. So with my concussion, that technically put me in a spot where it took away my sport and I was put in a position where I was alone and had time to actually think about the stuff that I needed to deal with. Um, and there's just something about like being in a position where you're alone, where you just think about more things than when you're distracted by outside factors. And also a big, huge blessing that was in disguise for me is like with concussion protocol, they give you a therapist to talk through like what you're going through, how your head is. And with that, I think because I was actually participating in this actual therapy session this time, um, I got a lot, well, I saw the benefits of being able to talk to someone and talk through my feelings and what I was going through. And also during that, I actually really figured out that I did have depression because it wasn't like anything in my life at that point in time was like as extreme as it was when I was going to therapy in high school when I was going through the fire and the flood and transitioning to a new high school and a bunch of stuff was just going on. So yeah, that was almost like a really like epiphany moment for me. And I think that's when I also just decided that like I'm going to take control of my life and I'm not just going to continue just keep letting things just happen. And yeah, I'm just going to work as hard as I possibly can to make my life better for myself. And that's when I started to just notice a shift in like me opening up to people about what I was going through and just talking through stuff, talking with my parents more. And that just like really like helped me in so many ways and also helped like people understand why sometimes I act totally different from who I actually am. And I think also a big thing for me being labeled as like situational depression, I thought it was something that I could fix and I would be normal again, you know? And so I think from high school going through college and whatnot, I was super frustrated because I was like, why am I not fixed? Why am I not strong enough to like help myself and be happy again? And so having that realization that this isn't something that I'm going to like fix and be normal again. It's more so something that I just have to nurture and treat with kindness and to just have understanding and to work with that relationship with me and my depression and to help it be a healthy relationship where we can both work together and just basically have a happy life. So, yeah, I guess that's like my epiphany moment was in college, and then how I got to be a content creator is a totally different, I guess, moment. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
like
no,
my epiphany moment.
yeah, no, I want to ask you about what you just said as well. With the, being able to fix it and then be normal.
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing to kind of come to grips with, right? When we're dealing with mental health stuff is like it's not just, oh, I'm gonna fix this and then I'm going to be better. And
yeah,
I went through that just recently because I've been off drugs for 7, 8 years, and I'd stopped doing some of that stuff I did early on, and I kind of got more involved with coaching and just life and 2 kids and just the craziness that
right,
happens. And so I kind of stopped taking care of myself. And
right,
I had this moment where I I felt as close to relapsing as I ever had. And it was just like I had to come to that realization that okay, it wasn't just the drugs that was the problem for me. It was, my mindset, it was my mental
yeah,
health issues, it was the depression, the anxiety, just everything kind of wrapped into that. And I broke down to my wife, just like, I have
um,
to do this forever. Like I
yeah.
have to take care of this forever. And so, like, what was that realization for you? Because I know it can be really tough when we're like, oh man, this sucks. But if I do want to stay healthy, if I do want to have a happy life, I like the way you put that of I do have to have this working relationship to where I'm always, giving to it. I'm always feeding it the healthy way in healthy ways, so that way it doesn't then take control over who I
Right,
am and where I'm at.
right. Um, I don't want to be like saying anything too like dark, but I think for me, because there was a point in time in college where I was just in a really dark place, and because I got my concussion in my sophomore year. So my freshman year was pretty hard for me. And so going into my sophomore year, I think it was one of those things where it was either I was going to continue down this road and possibly die, or I was going to decide that I'm going to live and I'm going to fight this. And yeah, I think that was just like a really hardcore moment for me to be like, no, I choose to live and to live happy. And so, yeah, it was like you said, it's like a hard moment where you're like, oh my God, this is like something I'm gonna deal with forever. Holy freaking cow, forever is a long time. But I kind of looked at it as how would I want to treat someone else that is going through the same situation? And that's how I'm going to treat my depression. I'm going to take care of it, nurture it, and just be as patient and kind with the whole process as I possibly can. And yeah, obviously some days they're not perfect and it's a really hard time. And I get angry and frustrated and sad and I break down and I cry. And some days I just barely get out of bed to even work. But those days just happen and you have to understand that the next, like, other days will come that are going to be better. You just have to take little baby steps each day to get better and feel better. And I think the biggest thing for me is understanding like what my pillars are that hold me up and keep me strong. And I think for me personally, I've realized that eating right is a really big one for me. Getting some sort of exercise or even just being outside is super huge for me as well. Because I feel like exercising, even like just coming from being an athlete, you get that dopamine kick in the morning and that just helps set your day for like a positive one right off the bat. And then I think my last one would just be staying connected because with depression it likes to tell me personally that people don't like me, people don't love me, I don't deserve to be around anyone, all those things, and that can really snowball and you can really lose like relationships and friendships from that. And that's just like a total lie. And so one of the things that my therapist had like taught me is do the opposite of what your brain's telling you, especially like in social situations. So if my brain's like, no, don't call your friend, I should probably be calling my friend. So just kind of like reteaching myself and my brain good habits has just been such a big thing for me. And yeah, like I said, staying connected and talking through and just being really honest with the people that are around you, with like what's going on with you. And yeah, just talking through it. And that you don't even really, like for me, I sometimes don't even really need like advice. I'm just calling or talking to someone just to like have that connection and feel like someone's there with me through the process. And that makes all the difference. So if you're like a friend and you're feeling like you have to say the right things, you don't. Honestly, just your presence there means the absolute world to someone that's struggling or going through a hard time. So yeah, I guess that's like my three pillars, I guess. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome though to like be able to think of it that way, right? Those things that really hold you up or at least contribute to that healthy relationship with your mental health, right? It shows you
right.
like, okay, if I just have to do these little things. Maybe I can't even hit all three today, but as long as I hit something because it's a bad day or it's an off day, I'm at least taking that baby step, right? And I think it's really
Yeah.
important what you said there about, you know, understanding like, okay, this is a bad day. This is a rough day, but I just have to
Mhm.
get through it, right?
Yeah.
And a better day is gonna come. And when
Mhm.
we're like, I remember just being like in deep and in those really dark moments of like, this is never gonna get better. Like every day
Yeah.
sucks. Every day is a bad day. And so then I lost
Yeah.
hope, right? I didn't have any hope
Right.
that tomorrow was gonna be any better and the next day was gonna be any better. So then it just was like, okay, why try? And I think that's a
Right.
really important thing to remember is like what you just said is you're going to have those rough days. You're going to have those days where that suck and maybe getting out of bed and going to brush your teeth is the biggest accomplishment you can have that day. But,
Yeah.
hold on to that little accomplishment and, and
Yeah.
to go with it.
Yeah, exactly. Celebrate the little things. That is such a big thing. As silly as it may be, like sometimes I'm like, freaking heck yeah, Nicole, you showered today. You freaking did it. Like that, and you should celebrate that because it is hard sometimes to just really take care of yourself. And if you give yourself like that positive mindset, it could lead to something else. I think like another big thing that I like to do for me is every day I like to make my bed because every day that makes me feel like I already have started my day off like with doing something successful. So it starts my day by like doing something right and getting it checked off my list, and then the ball just keeps rolling from there. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But like just finding out who you are as a person and what works for you and what makes you feel good. That's like I definitely think is a key thing. So
Yeah, and just like the little habits, right? The little habits that we
yeah,
have in our life that help each day either start off well, end well. Those little things
right.
we can do in the middle that just, you know, put us in a positive mindset, even though it could be something really small, but like you just said, those small things are can make the biggest difference when
Mhm.
we embrace them, that they are that big difference. Don't push it off and just say, oh, I just made my bed. No, like you got up, you did something, you started your day off
Yeah.
right, or showering, or I always go to brushing my teeth because I've paid for not taking care of myself all those years with my teeth a little bit. And so it's just like being able to say, all right, I did something small today, especially on those days where I feel worthless, where, going back to what you said, I'm listening to what my mind's telling me, like, you don't deserve this. Nobody wants to be around you. You're not loved. You're not,
Yeah.
you're just this worthless drug addict, even
Yeah.
if you're not using right now. And so like,
Yeah.
I like that. I want to just like hit on that a little bit more. What you said of do the opposite of what your mind's telling you.
Yeah.
Especially when you're going through it. Like I can relate to that a lot of just my mind telling me, nope, don't text back, or nope, don't call
Right.
back, or nope, go sit in your room and don't talk to anybody. Or just isolate from everybody because nobody wants to see you, nobody wants to hear from you, nobody wants to see you doing well. So
Yeah.
just go be by yourself. So I really like that you said that as well.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like the scariest times for me was when I was isolating myself. And the best times where I found myself like actually slowly picking away at making my days better was when I was surrounded by people that were genuinely trying to help me and I was slowly just doing the things that made me feel better. When I continue to just keep isolating, it just gets darker and darker and darker in there. And yeah, that's why I'm like, immediately when I feel myself like a dark episode or is coming on, I'm like, okay, what can we do to prepare? And what are our pillars? And sometimes I like to write it out too, to just like remind myself, because I really feel like for me, writing stuff out really helps like get it in my brain. Um, so I'll do that and like remind myself, or like even write out like the night before like a plan of attack for the next day, so that way my mind doesn't get in the way of it. I already have it set in stone, so I don't make excuses or have those thoughts where it's like, oh no, you don't have to do that. you know? So I'll be like, okay, make my bed, work out, eat a healthy meal, and sometimes I'll even write out that meal, so then it's not like I'm like heading straight for the carbs and sugar that give you that quick high, and then it's like there's a crash afterwards. So yeah, I just think that also really helps from like isolating and or just doing things that don't help you. So yeah, I don't know.
No, I think, with like dealing with mental health and being able to create a positive relationship with it, or a preventative relationship with it, kind of like everything you just said on, is having a plan, knowing what you need to do. Those little things are in place to say, like, I am going to have a bad day. and I am going to
Right.
have a rough day. So these are the things I'm going to put in place for tomorrow, so that way it doesn't turn into a rough week. It doesn't turn into a
Right.
rough month. Doesn't turn into a rough 6 months. And I'm just going backwards because I've definitely felt, you know, as time went on of being clean, there was those bad days, but they started to last. They weren't as long, right? They didn't go
Right.
on for as long as and there was hope in those bad moments too, because I had those pillars, I had those plans, I had that prep work of saying, like, all right, yeah, today sucks, but I got this coming up tomorrow, or I can plan for this tomorrow. Or I got this,
Mhm.
this meeting, or I'm having this talk in a couple hours. I just need to get to that because I know I'm going to feel better because I'm going to connect. I'm going to talk about what I'm
Mhm.
going through, and then I'm going to be able to, have that positive aspect on even a bad day. Um,
Right.
but I wanted to ask you too a little bit about, just the whole sports thing, and I think that can be a big thing as we go through life.
Yeah.
Where my issue started young of not knowing where I fit in, or just not ever feeling good enough. And then when I kicked the soccer ball for the first time, I fell in love right away. I never had tried any other sports. I didn't even like try anything else. It was just that first time I did it, I felt like I finally belonged in something. So I completely understand that passion and that love, um, for something. So what was that like when you were going through it? Like, was that an outlet for you, as you were dealing with stuff?
Yeah, so I would definitely say volleyball was a outlet for me. I kind of was the same way. I tried a few sports and I did like track and softball and a little bit of soccer, but it wasn't like super crazy, like all in kind of vibe. So when I first touched a volleyball, I fell head over heels in love with it, and yeah, just dove right into it. And immediately my goal was to play D1 volleyball. And so I worked really hard, and I think I just became super fixated on it. And so that's kind of like what helped me, I guess, during those hard times in like middle school, throughout high school, and even like a little bit in elementary school. I kind of like, if it was hard, like I was going through a hard time with like my depression, um, I would just be like, all right, let's go practice. Let's do a private, get my energy out, get those feelings out. And that's kind of how I coped. Um, and so, yeah, like I said, once that was kind of taken away, I was like, frick, I don't really know how to cope with life anymore without volleyball. Um, so that was a transition, and I'm kind of glad that transition happened before like I actually stopped playing my sport entirely. So I kind of got that feeling of like, oh my gosh, like it's gone, and understanding that, and also really like having that realization that like, frick, I do need more coping skills with what's going on with me. So I definitely am very thankful. I guess I got a crazy concussion, in a way. So yeah, um, definitely was an outlet, but shouldn't have been my only outlet.
Yeah, no, I completely understand and can agree or relate to that, because soccer was my only, well, besides drugs, but that was my only positive positive outlet that I had, as I was going through that. And it was always, especially once I got to my senior year of high school, in freshman year of college, and then the other, it was kind of fragmented how I went and played 2 more years in college. But right after season, I would be able to keep my life together for like 2, 3 months, however long that season was, and then it was just, I would fall off hard, and I would just like, that was my biggest thing. And when I wasn't doing it every day, then I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna do more drugs now, or I'm gonna drink more because I don't have
Oh
to worry
no.
about practice, or I don't have a game coming up, so I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
hard into this. So it would always really fall apart. And I remember, like, just each time that I lost that opportunity. And I dropped out the first time between my freshman and sophomore year. And then my coach took me back, gave me another chance, and I kind of screwed them over again right after the season. Left again, and then I played one more time. But every time that I left, it was like I wanted just to get back to it so bad, and I missed it so much,
Yeah.
and I never was at peace with it because I either saw my friends I started playing with graduating, having that last game, that picture of their last game, and
Oh,
those
yeah.
those moments that you were like, I wish I would have had that, but now that I have other coping skills, I became really at peace with it, with not playing, and then I got really involved with coaching, but I was really at peace with just like, all right, I don't need this anymore to be happy. I can watch it, I
Right.
can enjoy it, I can have fun with it, but I don't need to be in that like competitive killer mindset to where if I don't have that, if I'm not playing, then I'm still gonna be okay. And so I
Right.
think I think that's important that you said that too, is like you were glad that you were kind of able to see that before that decision happened, because
Yeah.
it's hard right when it gets cut off. But I mean, was it still a little bit of a struggle, like kind of letting go and finding that peace
Oh,
with it?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It was like I broke up with my boyfriend. Oh my gosh. I was a wreck. I was crying, and you know how it goes. It's just like you lose like a love of your life. So, and that's hard. And yeah, see, I'm getting all like sentimental about it now because it's definitely hard. Yeah, it was definitely still a transition, even though I kind of like had a brief feeling of it before. It was just like I said, breaking up with a boyfriend, and um, yeah, I was heartbroken, and I was kind of like, frick, what the heck am I gonna do with my life without volleyball? And so, I think the biggest thing for me was just trying a bunch of things that I never really got to try when I was like dedicating my life to my sport. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, let's make a list of things that like I'm even just like even semi passionate about, like not even fully, just like even semi or like even that I casually like. And let's go try those things and see if like a spark happens from that. And so I always knew that I really liked photography. And so I was like, let's just go do that. Let's just pull out my old little Nikon camera that I had just sitting in my closet and see what happens from there. And so, yeah, I just started doing that and I kind of like fell in love with just taking photos again. And yeah, it kind of just snowballed from there and I realized that's what I really liked. And luckily, like I was super lucky that that was one of like the few first things that I tried and it ended up clicking for me. Um, so yeah, but I will say that I definitely had to go through a grieving process. It's kind of weird to talk about your sport in that way of where you talk about like grieving it, but it really is like you have to go through these stages of grief in order to get past it and to kind of just like let it go. Cuz I I really didn't want to let it go, and for me also personally, I felt like I kind of got gypped a little bit and didn't really get to finish how I wanted to finish, but um I still am really grateful that it did end when it ended because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So kind of like whatever you believe in, whether it's God or the universe, I just feel like everything happens for a reason, and yeah, that's where I was meant to be. But still, sometimes in the back of my head, I'm like, frick, I kind of wish it ended in a little like in a different way where I got to hit my 1,000 kills, 1,000 digs, and I got to like have my senior night. And also the fact that I wish I got to graduate with my friends because I was in the lucky year of 2020, where no one got to have a graduation and walk across the stage. Like I didn't get to have my sash that said I was an athlete and like all the stuff that I dedicated my time to. Like I wanted to have that feeling of like, wow, this was all worth it. All like my whole life that I dedicated my life to my sport. Like it was worth it. I made it, you know, like that one little tiny feeling of walking across that stage. Um, so I wish I did get that, but like I don't know, I feel like I've definitely have come to terms with that and I got to do it in my own way. Like I went around the world wearing my cap and gown and taking pictures in it to celebrate that. And I think that's almost way cooler in a way. And then I also celebrated with like my family. So yeah, I don't know. I guess just like slowly morphing and figuring out how to end that chapter in your own way is definitely important. Um, but yeah, it was for sure a process. It wasn't like I went from one thing to the next. It was like I had to grieve and then figure out what it is I actually liked and also figure out my identity of who is Nicole Mack without volleyball. I don't know. And so, yeah, I just slowly figured that out. And I would say that I'm honestly probably at a point in time right now in my life, like the happiest and healthiest I've ever felt. So I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good, a really good way of looking at it, especially with like once you were leaving it, you looked at a bunch of different things that, you know, you could have been passionate about or you were semi-passionate about, or maybe, you know, just something new to try. And I think that's really important to realize as we make changes in our life, just because we're letting go or moving on from something that is a huge part of us doesn't mean our happiness is gone, or it doesn't mean like our opportunities are gone. We can always find something else that we can enjoy and put our time into. And that's, you know, my mindset was like, oh, it's over. I'm going to grieve with it, but I'm going to grieve with it in a really bad, negative way. And so then my life just like, you know, continued to snowball into these really negative situations and dark moments. But you know, I like when you look at, you know, kind of coming back to the beginning of our conversation as well, and you talk about being a content creator and you know what you do, was that like picking up that camera out of your closet, kind of that first step into doing what you're doing now?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely morphed a little bit. But yeah, it kind of sparked that um excitement in me and now it's just kind of snowballed into I make photos and videos for brands slash I also make like fun content reels and stuff for brand social media. So it's just cool that I can do a bunch of different things with it. And I have the freedom to choose like what I want to be doing with it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy just the freedom of it all. Cause I don't know if you felt this way, but with your sport, like it was amazing that you dedicated that much time and effort and had that drive. But I felt like a lot of the time I almost was over dedicating and I didn't have freedom to just go do whatever. Like I was always so worried, like if I went snowboarding, let's say, that I would hurt myself and then I wouldn't even be able to like do the dream of being a D1 athlete. So I always kind of just played it safe. And that idea of having total freedom, even though I thought it was there, wasn't fully there. So actually feeling like that total freedom of being like, oh, I can go snowboarding today. And if I get hurt, whatever. Like, even though I like that would suck, but like, still, like, I don't have to have that fear anymore of like ruining it or like ruining it for my teammates because you also have like your team on your back as well that um, you want to help. So there's just a lot of pressure there. But now I get to pick and choose like what I want to do and what I want to do with my day. Or if I'm having a bad day, I can pick and choose like, okay, maybe today we'll take it slower and we don't have to do as much work. So like I am really blessed and I really appreciate my younger self, like working so hard to get here to where I can put myself in positions where I can take care of myself and just be a happier person, really.
Yeah, no, I love that with you like talking about that freedom, of being able to do what you want and enjoy your life how you want to. And like I kind of feel the same way, and not so much my sport, even though it did take up so much of my time, but definitely with drugs. Like I thought I was this like free living person because I'm getting high all the time and like doing what I want, and like I had my own true, will or whatever it was in those moments. And really it was just I was so controlled by it. Like I thought it was freedom. And I lost, countless opportunities to that because I mean I made two semi-pro teams over summers, and one was out of state, so I didn't want to go because I didn't know where drugs were. If I went and took that opportunity, and another one was close to me, but the day I was supposed to go to the first training, I didn't have drugs, and so I spent that day trying to find drugs instead of going and doing that first training. Um, and now when you can just like, oh, I want to do this, and I don't have to be high to do it. I don't have to like worry about, okay, well, I got to find drugs before I do anything else. And I feel like that freedom, is such a powerful thing in being happy and being that freedom to say, I want to do what I want, or, as long as it's productive and good. And trying new things, and, just be able to live your life like that adds such a powerful aspect to being in a, mentally a positive place, and a really and genuine happiness, which I think is what life is all about, is figuring out what happiness is to us, what success is to us, and then living our life to those extents, to what those definitions are to us and those meanings are to us, because obviously our definitions of happiness or success are going to be different, but as long as we're staying true to ourselves in um that goal to achieve those things, we're gonna be happier as we go. And then so I guess another thing I want to ask you about before we get close to wrapping up is, looking at some of your posts and everything, there's some really positive messaging in there, about being kind to yourself. And, I know there was one or two that stuck out to me about, one of them was along the lines of, your any moment can lead you to a whole different life or something like that. And then being afraid of failing and what you can actually learn from failing. So to not have that fear of failing. And so there's some really positive messages in those posts. Is that really intentional? Is that like, do you want to put that out there to encourage and to provoke people to think a little bit differently than some of those, like, maybe things that I can't fail because then this, or I can't make this change because then my life will be 100% different. Like, do you intentionally put some of those messages in there?
Yeah, it's kind of like for me, I kind of try to think back of like where I was in those moment in times, and what I wish I would have been like, what I wish I would have known or like saw from someone else. And I just try to put this stuff out there that really helped like change my life, and I just hope it helps someone else in some way, shape, or form, or even helps them create a thought that they never were thinking of, or a different perspective. Um, so that's like my biggest goal out of it, is just helping people have realizations or have a different perspective, really. And or just to bring some light and happiness into their day if it's just like a hard one, Because there's just so much on social media right now that's just like, it's just like either super funny or really overly sad or whatever. And I just really want to bring in more of the positive, and or just like a different perspective, because it's not picture perfect and life isn't like that at all. And so I kind of like showing that, yeah, times can be hard, and there's times where you're scared, and or like you're having a bad day, but that's okay. Like, just go for what you want to do and fight for what you're passionate about, and yeah, just really go full force into that. And I don't know, I just really want to inspire people to take positive risk and to go for what they're passionate for, because I know how scary that can be, because I know I was really scared after volleyball ended, and I was like, holy frick, I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. And I could have stayed and played my 6th year, but I was like, no, I feel like I need to take that leap. And it was so scary. Like the idea of like letting go of something that was so comfortable to me was just, I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can actually do that. But I did it, and honestly, all the steps that I've taken in my life that have totally changed my life have been ones that I've been like honestly scared about, but in a good way. Like you feel that like fuzzy kind of scared feeling where it's like you're excited but you're almost too scared. And those are the things I definitely believe that you should be diving into more. And I'm glad I have, and I'm glad I've had those nudges to like go for them, and I did, because they've totally changed my life. And yeah, so I guess that's in coming full circle back to your question. That's what I really hope people get out of my content and stuff that I put out there, is just to go for it and to fight for what you're passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And I think, just talking about the positivity is so important. And that's I really look at things like that too, which is why I've enjoyed doing this, because I feel like it can be really positive, and it's focusing on those challenges that people go through, but it's showing that you can go through those challenges and still end up in these wonderful places and end up being really happy and driven, and that's a really special thing. And I feel like that there's just so much negativity at times, and on social media and the world. So I really like that positivity and that message that you're talking about of go after your passions and take those chances. And you know like just when you look back at life, and I can do this at for different moments, and I look at that one decision I made that really did change my life, and a lot of those were negative ones, but the ones that mean the most were those ones that I was scared because I knew it could lead to something good, and I was terrified because it could change my life in a really positive way. And I just lived in darkness for so long. Like, that was terrifying to me, to be happy and to have positive things in my life, and to have, just what I have today. And so I think when you can push people or start to plant that seed for them, whether they're going to do it when they see it, or whether they, that's just going to give them a little bit of confidence to say, like, oh, hey, this person tried it. Why can't I? Why can't I go and try it as well? And so I love that messaging. And just think we could always use more of that. I try to stay really positive, and I spent so much of my life negative, and just like in this mindset of, life sucks and it's dark and it's miserable, and and it's all these negative things. And so I try to, I guess I went to the other extreme now, to where I'm overly positive sometimes. It's like something goes wrong. It's like, no, just find that bright side, which drives my wife crazy at times, when I do that all the time. But I think I think that positivity can be really powerful at times. And, I think I love that about your messaging, and how you've showcased that into chasing your dreams, take those chances, embrace that failure at times, and don't be afraid to, really take a chance on yourself. Yeah. So, kind of, I don't know if you can hear my kids in the background there, but kind of getting to the end of our conversation here, I just want to say, I really appreciate your time, and grateful that we were able to make this work, through some technical challenges we've had, having this conversation. And then, like I said in the beginning, I'm going to put your links in the description. So anybody watching, definitely go check out what Nicole is doing. Especially if you're traveling or you need some tips in that realm. It sounds like she's pretty knowledgeable, and that she can guide you in the right way. So yeah, so I just want to, I want to leave you with the kind of last word, or, thought or advice or perspective, or just anything. But I want to just, kind of open it up to you one more time to just share one more perspective that you want people to hear?
I guess if there's anything that I can end on is be kind to yourself, have patience, and to check up on the ones that you love, because one phone call or a text can mean the world to them or even save their life. So call the ones that you love and yeah, take that leap of faith, because it could totally change your life as well. And I hope everyone has a great day. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm leaving it on.
Great, an important message there to end with. So yeah, so this has been Illuminate Navigate Radio, and have a great rest of your day.